Chapter 21. We conducted the final meeting up on the sofa at Kitten Caboodle. James, next to the speakerphone, reported to Antoinette, who seemed to relish the whole story. "It's like a movie," she said. "My goodness, it's so exciting. It's got a chase. It's got a love story. It's got suspense. It's got a magnificent part for the sister." "But what's the moral?" Felix was pacing back and forth on the vinyl counter. "The higher meaning," he added. "Oh, the higher meaning is Higher Sam." Sue looked up at me. "Boy, what a brilliant, brilliant detective you are." I beamed. "But the actual moral," Pickles announced, "is don't be a wise guy, and don't be a fool, and don't be a criminal." Spike raised his paw. "And don't try to kidnap anyone you're allergic to. And never," he added, "sneeze." "But you know what bothers me?" James threw in. "You've got some bad guys who weren't caught. I mean, not even Slow-Mo. Slow-Mo was caught, I suppose, but not for the proper thing, and it really bothers me." "Well, relax. He dropped his wallet," I said. "You know, while he and Casey were rolling around." "So he dropped his wallet." James made a shrug. "So I happened to look. And you know what was in it?" I waited patiently. Nobody guessed. He had the ransom note in his wallet. He'd made a copy, and there it was. "And you think they found it?" Rosie was pleased. "I know they found it. A cop picked it up. So there's your moral," I added. "Swell, but what about Casey?" Pickles was firm. "He learned his lesson," Sandy informed him. "This is a lesson? I think it's a gift. He doesn't get punished. He doesn't cry. He goes off with the princess. This is a lesson?" Sandy was nodding. "Yeah, in a way. It's a lesson in character, Pickles. Casey had to struggle to figure it out. Right from wrong. Weak from strong. And who he was, and what he was doing, and who he wanted to be, and what he wanted to be doing. You see what I'm saying?" Pickles was still. "You're saying he's human," Pickles concluded. Sandy nodded. "I'm glad I'm a cat." Everyone nodded. Everyone certainly more than contented to be a cat. And yet, in a way, we had feelings for Casey. Casey had struggled and gotten it right, which made him a learner, I figured. Some, my mother told me, are born knowing. Some of the others can never learn. And then there's the learners. Bless the learners and hallelujah for Casey Jones. "I have an announcement," Sandy announced. He stood erectly and flicked his tail on the edge of the cushion. "I'm quitting my job. And more important, I'm quitting my house." He looked at Rosie. "I'm coming home." "Coming home?" she said. Her voice was nearly trembling with feathered hope, as though she'd captured the bird of happiness. "My home," he said, "is with you." "Oh, my dearest!" She leapt for joy. "Are you really certain?" "As sure as breath." "You'll be leaving your luxuries." "Speaking of luxuries," Antoinette was alert on the phone, "can I have your pillow?" "And everything else. You can have my ball." "I don't want your ball. Your ball is yucky with all your spit." "Hold it a second." James was insulted. "Maybe I'd like to have your ball." He thought it over. "And come to think of it, Buddy, what if I had your life?" "You mean—" "Sure. Quite, exactly. Just supposing I took your place. Would anyone notice? I mean, supposing I kept my nose in the proper shade. You could do it with shoe polish," Sue suggested. "But why would you want to?" Sandy was stunned. "You'd have to eat cat slop." You'd have to smile. You would have to live in a stupid penthouse with Mrs. Angelhoff. So I would. James looked embarrassed and turned to the wall. But then, as everyone seems to be learning, home's where the heart is and all that rubbish. So, are you listening, Antoinette? I'm totally riveted, James. Go on. James cleared his throat and then fondled his whiskers. Would you consent to, how can I put this? It begins with an M, James. So it does. Would you consent to it? Oh, yes, I would. I would. Antoinette consented. Would what? Pickles looked at the phone. Would marry him, everyone shouted. Oh, a wedding. Pickles was thrilled. I'll be the caterer. So what would you like? A platter of liver? A platter of lox? So when are we doing it? How about now? Rosie was beaming. We'll go to the church. Right this minute. How about that? Right this minute? Antoinette shrieked. But that's impossible. That's rubbish. I'll have to get my hair done, and pick my ribbon, and wash my whiskers, and do my nails. Antoinette, James was sounding impatient. Stop this nonsense and come to the church. Spike took over. Let's settle down and let's try to get organized. Everyone sat. Felix will pick up the bride. Pickles, you pick up the platters. Sam and Rosie, you'll go to the church and arrange for the wedding. James, take a nap. There was suddenly a great frenzy of activity. Departing bodies fled through the window. Sue and I were completely alone. Best man, she said in the moonlight. Maid of honor, I said in return. It looks like everyone's getting married, Sammy. James, baby Mary Beth. I put my paw on her beautiful shoulder. That's the moral, she said. I guess, and they all got married and lived happily ever after? For an answer, I said, come here. Closer, I said. There's something I want to whisper straight in your ear. Will it make me happy? She said. Completely. She nestled closer. I cupped her ear and whispered a sentence. She started to laugh. Ugly Anna? She said. Really, Sam? It's really, really her name? I simply nodded, and then we giggled. Sue was happy, and so was I. The end. About the author. Linda Stewart has written 17 adult crime novels and film novelizations, plus television dramas and documentaries. The Los Angeles Times called her Panic on Page 1 a superbly written book, sharp-witted and engrossing. The New York Times called it lively, accurate, full of smart dialogue and believable characters. Sam the Cat Detective, her first book for children, was inspired by her live-in cat named Sam, who generously lets her share his Manhattan apartment. The book has been published, in translation, in several other countries, and was nominated for the Mystery Writers of America's Edgar Award.